Greetings again, everybody, and welcome back to Dark Souls 2, Crown of the Ivory King. This is essentially the final proper episode of the LP. We're going to fight the end boss of the DLC. We could summon Lucatiel, her summon science chest outside this room, or Twiggy Shay, who is that guy with the bell hat. But we're not gonna, because while summoning them is a perfectly valid choice for the first phase of the fight, it makes the second one just really long, and there's all the knights that we got. So let's, without any further ado, just hop down. That was quite a change of scenery. The old chaos is reminiscent a lot of, well, the bed of chaos from the first game, what with the roots of the trees and the fire theme. Now this first phase of the fight features us fighting against an army of charred Lois knights. They do drop their set of armor. They're not too powerful, which is kind of necessary because there's a lot of them. They will spawn out of those three portals there. And every once in a while, one of those Lois Knights on our side will start glowing blue and decide to seal shut one of the portals. Now, you can guess why it's important that we have 4 knights now. Well, 3 at least. This is so we can shut all the portals. Once this first phase is over, well, let's just say if you had only 1 knight and only 1 gate was shut, you'd still have to deal with 2 portals constantly spawning enemies while you also fight the actual boss, which should be difficult. But this entire thing with the charred Lois Knights and the regular Lois Knights, it reminds me a little bit of Gwyn from Dark Souls. See, Dark Souls went to fight the Chaos Demons, and in the process of fighting these Chaos Demons, Gwyn's loyal Silver Knights got charred black and got turned into Black Knights. This is basically what happened here. Gwyn, by the way, means white, and Ivory, as in the Ivory King, can also mean white. So, the Ivory King of course is not Gwyn, but this particular part of his backstory does mirror Gwyn's. So, by this point we already have 2 portals shut. Now, for every portal that gets shut we also lose 1 knight, because to actually close the portal the knight has to sacrifice himself or has to step into the portal or something, I don't even know. But I suppose it's them sacrificing themselves to freeze it. And see, it's kind of important to not be too aggressive in this fight, because if you're more aggressive you can actually take out all of those enemies before the final portal gets shut. And if you do that, if there's no enemies here on this map before the final portal gets shut, the second phase will initiate. So it's in your best interest to stall for a little bit. And the final knight is basically a safety net. In case one dies, you will still have enough to actually close all the portals, to make the proper boss fight after this a lot more manageable. But yeah, this first phase isn't too hard, it's just annoying to go through every time you want to try again. And here we have the big man himself, the burnt Ivory King. This fight is pretty cool. It is not hard, but it's really cool. Just the way it is set up, the way it comes out of the portal and all that, it's great. And the music is awesome too. It's just a fight that feels great and climatic, despite it not being too difficult. But it doesn't mean, of course, that you can just sit back and, I don't know, enjoy a cup of tea while you slaughter him. It's not that easy. Especially not if you don't have that one extra knight, which, by the way, he will take care of rather quickly. He has a couple of attacks that can be difficult to predict, and once he loses some of his health, he will actually power up his sword, which will give it a lot of extra range. And if you get just hit by the energy part of the blade, you'll take a little bit of damage. Considerable damage, don't get me wrong. But if you get hit by both his physical sword and the energy blade, you'll take more damage. And you'll probably die, so avoid that. Once he has his sword powered up, it's pretty important to just dodge carefully. And sometimes, even if you do, something like this will happen. Which is frustrating, but whatever. So, he doesn't really have anything as a gimmick aside from his powered up sword. Which is kind of what makes this fight interesting. Because he doesn't do anything that you wouldn't expect him to do. It's a fight where you can anticipate everything, it's just a test of your skill. The same is true for other fights too, like the Fume Knight, but I like this general difficulty level much more. And his energy blade is actually a buff, which means that it can expire, so if you stall for long enough or just take long enough, well, he will get his normal sword again and has to buff again. Should you die to the Burnt Ivory King though, well, it's gonna be very frustrating. Because to fight him again, you'll have to do the first phase of the fight once more, every time you lose. And this took me a total of 3 attempts. But now, finally, I'm done. Right now, we've collected 2 of the crowns so far, and this is the 3rd and final one. Well, technically there's 4. There's also King Vendrick's crown, which we also possess already. But hey, we now have it. There's another ray of light which will bring us back up. But first, let's soak in the scenery. Back when we fought the Bed of Chaos in Lost Isolith and Dark Souls, it didn't look quite so extremely fiery. This might be the same place though, we don't know. It's hard to tell. Maybe Chaos is something similar to the Abyss anyway. Well, let's head back up. Alright, so then, let's see what Alsana has to say here. After we've done her wish.
You've granted my one wish. Now, I have no regrets. I was born amidst the dark. Long ago, in the depths of the abyss, my father perished. The dark shattered into tiny pieces, one of which was me. How frightened I was. A frail thing, born from but a splinter of dark. I felt that I might simply disappear. I am, in fact, the incarnation of my father's fears. I saw that the king of this land was strong. I sought him only to sustain myself, to smother my fears. Now, I realize that he may have known all along. I was born of fear, and my Lord provided comfort. And so, here I remain, heiress to my Lord's wishes, watching over chaos. Until the end of time. The knights of Ivory were swallowed by the chaos, where their souls still remain. I pray for their deliverance.
What she tries to tell us with that last bit is that we should collect Lois souls, which we can get for killing the charred Lois soldiers down there. A total of 50. We will get the entire Lois set of armor, and eventually all the barriers to her will remove and we can actually see what she looks like and get her soul. But I'm not gonna do that actually because that takes too long. I'll just put a picture in the thread. I hope you're not too mad because I'm not gonna grind. I'm so sorry. But let's actually go on ahead and see what Wendrick has to say now that we have all of the crowns.
One day fire will fade, and dark will become a curse. Men will be free from death, left to wander eternally. Dark will again be ours, and in our true shape, we can bury the false legends of yore. Only, is this our only choice? Seeker of fire, coveter of the throne. Seek strength. The rest will follow.
What that just did was to give all of the 4 crowns the effect that if we wear it and die, we will not go hollow, we will not have reduced humanity. We will instead just remain in our human form. But we will still lose our soul, so this isn't breaking the curse. We're just preventing our hollowing. But hey, this is it now. Let's get out of here. Curved sword forged from the soul of Alsana. Formed by 2 curious blades, this sword can restore an ally's HP with a hit from the strong attack. The enigmatic Alsana quietly found a place at the Ivory King's side, and when his strength was fully drained, he conferred the sword inscribed with the name of the land to her. It is essentially a healing shiv. If we hit an ally with a strong attack and get this weird glow, it'll heal them. If we hit an enemy with it, we'll damage the enemy, but we will get healed. Like so, only we didn't get damaged beforehand. Oh well. But yeah, other than that, it is a fairly standard curved sword. And while I didn't use very many curved swords in this LP, in fact I think only one for half an episode, they are actually pretty good weapon type. Which I just failed to show off. Ultra Great Sword of the Ivory King of Ilium Lois. Wield with both hands to realize its full strength. It is said that the Ivory King was once the highest ranking knight in his home of Feroza, famed for its god of war. After taking his crown, they say he was the first to swing his sword in times of need, be it for his homeland or his people. So he seemed to be a pretty swell guy, as opposed to the other kings we've met who all had some kind of flaw. Anyway, this sword's pretty badass. I mean, if you wield it two-handed, it really is. It has this little magic buff going on. Of course, every swing will consume some durability, which will mean that this weapon will break very quickly. Unless maybe you use the bracing knuckle ring +1 or +2 to reduce that durability reduction. But yeah, something important to note is that if you hit an enemy with just the magic part of the blade, it'll do a little less damage, because it's gonna just do the damage of the buff. But if you hit with the actual blade as well as the magic buff, it'll do a lot of damage. It's a very powerful weapon. I reckon if you fully upgrade it, it's gonna be devastating to most things. But personally, due to the durability issue, I would probably save it for the big guys and just use one-handed mode for normal enemies like those guys. So yeah, pretty sweet, fun weapon. Oh yeah, that was the final weapon showcase, so see you around.